There's plenty more where that came from. Written and read by Brother Jerry Valenti. The 12 apostles have returned from their mission of preaching the gospel and healing the sick, and they're anxious to tell Jesus everything that happened. In order to have some private time together, they board a ship and travel across the Sea of Galilee to a desert place. However, some people in the city see them leaving, so a large crowd walks around the sea, arriving at the other side as the ship is landing. As Jesus leaves the ship, he sees the crowd and is moved with compassion. He views these people as sheep without a shepherd, so he takes the time to teach them about the kingdom of God and heals all who are sick. As the day winds down, the disciples tell Jesus that he should let the people go so they can get themselves some dinner. The disciples are taken aback when Jesus replies that they should feed the people instead. After all, they have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, and there are 5,000 men, plus women and children, who would need to be fed. But Jesus blesses the small amount of food, and miraculously, there is enough to feed everyone there. There are even 12 baskets of bread fragments left over, more than what they started with. What could the disciples have been thinking as they distributed the food? Perhaps they looked at Jesus whenever the baskets seemed to be getting empty, and Jesus smiled and said, "There's plenty more where that came from," and suddenly there was more. How did he do it? It doesn't matter. All we need to know is that where God is concerned, there can always be more. When we try to place human limits on God, we quickly learn that God is infinite, from everlasting to everlasting. Whenever we receive something from God, we can trust that there's plenty more where that came from. A modern-day example of the above occurred at the General Church Conference several years ago. I was a young elder at the time, and I was sitting in the congregation while the apostles distributed the Lord's Supper to several hundred people. When the brothers had finished distributing the bread, they were walking back toward the front of the room, and I noticed there was quite a bit of bread piled on each plate. It looked like more than there was at the beginning. When the brothers reached the front of the room, they looked at each other's plates, and one of them exclaimed, "We have more bread than what we started with." Somehow the bread had been miraculously multiplied. The same concept of there being more to come from God, even when humans think there can be no more, can be applied to other things besides food. Miracles. Some people, even if they believe in God, think that miracles were only for the time that the scriptures were written. You and I know from our own personal testimonies that there have been plenty more miracles from where those came from. We've witnessed many in our lifetimes, and there are surely many more to come. Knowledge. Regardless of how much a person studies the scriptures, there's always more that can be learned. Even if God has revealed a great amount to us regarding the mysteries of God, there's plenty more where that came from. Records. Much of the Christian world limits God to a single book of His Word. A Bible, we have got a Bible, and there cannot be any more Bible. 2 Nephi 29:3. In the Church of Jesus Christ, we understand that there is plenty more where that came from. We already have one additional record, the Book of Mormon, and we look forward to many more coming forth. So let's be careful to not try to limit God, especially in areas where He has already shown forth His power. If He has provided something for us before, He can do it again, and again, and again. He doesn't run out of material, He doesn't run out of energy, He doesn't retire. If we are convinced that something came from God once, there's plenty more where that came from.